Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Coffee with Craig, where we talk about all things firearms, firearms policy, politics, culture, media, you name it. We're talking about it right here on Coffee with Craig. So please take a moment, like and share the program so that your friends can know where the conversation is taking place. Also, if you haven't already done so, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And make sure in the case of Facebook and YouTube that you hit the notification, that you hit the notification button. That way you'll be notified as soon as we go live, and you can participate in the live chat as the program is taking place. Also, I want to make sure you visit fpcgear.com. That's fpcgear.com. It is the place to go to get all of your Pro 2A swag. I'm talking T-shirts, tank tops, something a little special for the significant other. Maybe, something for the office, something for the home. You never know. But also, in the event that you just want to go out and you want to be COVID safe, you can find it right there at fpcgear.com. Now, the best part about it is that every dollar that you spend goes right back into the fight for our right to keep and bear arms. So you can support the Second Amendment and you can look good doing it. That's fpcgear.com. Right now, one of the things about anti-gun community is that one of the things they love to do is they love to project forward. And they love to say, well, maybe if we pass this bill, someone will invent the technology. One example of that, for example, is smart guns, right? Well, we all know, where you only the person who owns the gun is the one who's able to use it, and the thing is going to be perfect. But we all know what a failed technology that is. Well, one of the other things that they've introduced, and it's actually really at play in the state of California, has to do with microstamping. That's right, microstamping is in the news in the state of California once again. So here's what's happening. So in 2007, they passed a piece of legislation that said if microstamping technology is ever going to work, if it works, then all firearms are going to need to be required, are going to need to have it in order to be eligible to be sold by firearms retailers in the state of California. In other words, the only way they can get on the not unsafe handgun roster list is if they have microstamping. Now, this version of microstamping required microstamping in two places. Technology just didn't work. There was no possible way to do it. So a legislator, Mr. Chu, decided he was going to introduce a bill that would change it so that you only have to have microstamping in one location. As if the technology, we all know that technology is eligible now. We all know it can be done. So let's go ahead and let's require that now so that it can moot any of the lawsuits that are out there that says that the technology doesn't exist or doesn't work. Well, except that, we still know that the technology doesn't work. We still know that to be the case. In fact, here's a video that kind of shows you that even despite the fact that it's not in two locations, it kind of outline why the technology does not work.
What they're hoping for is that the firing pin will strike right here, nice, clean, and center in the middle of the primer, and leave a nice little indentation. That's not typically what happens in a real firearm. You can see this one where the firing pin struck is now perfectly flat, and there's a little piece of raised metal there that's been sheared off. So any evidence of microstamping is now completely gone.
In some cases, especially with higher pressure ammo, the firing pin won't quite retract before the cartridge spins out. So if you look quite carefully here, you see a smear. So it ended up dragging.
So it won't be legible?
It won't be legible. And again, remember, it's not like you're putting this in a laboratory in a device that's going to just pull it back and imprint it once.
That's supposed to imprint every single time.
Right, without fail. Perfectly legible and can connect a fired case to a particular pistol that's going to be used presumably as evidence in court. So it has to be perfect all the time, every time. It's simply not possible. And it has to work with all ammunition.
And so by way of example, this is a typical brass cartridge. This is a nickel-plated cartridge. This is a steel cartridge. This one is an aluminum cartridge. And so each one of those obviously is a different hardness, a different surface, and would have a very different result if you tried to microstamp any of those.
Okay, so we've made it very clear. I mean, you can just see just from that short video just how easy it is, or just how ineffective this particular piece of technology is. I mean, think about it. You're going to take all of this information, you're going to put it on the firing pin. Now, just let me give you a close-up look at this photo right here. Now take a look at that. That is how big the imprinting is going to be on a particular firing pin, right? Now you cannot tell me there's no possible way that you can look at that and tell me that is something that is going to be effective 100% of the time, not even 50% of the time, and be able to be used in court. But see, it's not just even about the quality of the technology. It's how easy is it to beat the technology? Because, well, we all know that, let's just be honest. We all know that criminals they're going to try and find a way to get around the law. That's exactly what it is that they're going to do. And one of the things that they don't point out that's the legislature refuses to acknowledge or even hear about in the state of California is just how easy it is to beat this technology. And here's an example, a couple of examples of how one would beat this technology.
I couldn't even begin to try to list the total number of ways you could defeat this technology.
Let me put it this way. The criminals, the lowlifes are smarter than Sacramento or Washington because a $2 file from the hardware store would get rid of it. Anybody could do it.
Something as simple as this, a piece of ordinary 300 grit sandpaper. I can take this firing pin, which does have micro engraved markings on the tip, and within about 30 seconds of rubbing, no more than this right here, those marks will be gone. Put it back in the gun and it fired just fine.
Since I was younger, I always have a gun on me all the time. It's easy to beat the system, change the pin from a gun.
It's not uncommon when we get firearms in my profession to see criminals who have disassembled their firearms multiple times. So I go online, order myself a new firing pin, sit at home, switch up my firing pin, and voila, no more microstamping in my gun.
In addition to that, if I was going to commit a crime, I might go to the range, grab a handful of microstamped brass, and I leave that at the crime scene. Now the police have 10 or 15 different leads that they need to follow up on, and none of them are the criminal.
All right, so once again, so you can see how easily it can be defeated, right? Once again, you either just file off the data off of your firing pin. You switch out your firing pin, which is remarkably easy to do, or you just go and grab a bunch of brass at the firing range or out at BLM land or something like that, and you just toss that microstamped stuff out, and now they got a bunch of leads that they need to follow. But none of that matters, because I'm telling you, all of that was brought up in the California state legislature, and they didn't care. They didn't care because ultimately what it came down to was they wanted to ban guns. And when I say that, here's a great example. So what happened was when they decided, what they did was they in order for a firearm to be included on the roster, on the not unsafe handgun roster, it had to have microstamping. Well, what happened was manufacturers kept producing older model firearms, right? As long as they were already on the roster, then they were already exempt from this law. So that's how people in California were still able to buy semi-automatic handguns, right? Because they fell out. Once again, some firearms didn't fall off the roster. Now, they did go around and they did say, okay, well, if you change your firing pin or if you change a spring or if you change a supplier of a spring, that's considered a new firearm. That's now off the roster. They have been engaged in that, right? But even with that, they haven't been able to reduce the roster to the degree that they would like. So, as a part of this particular piece of legislation, they've now said, well, tell you what, so now that we've made it easier, because the technology does exist, now that we've made it easier for every firearm that's added to the roster, we're going to remove three firearms from the roster, right? In other words, they're trying to say, when you'll notice in this particular clip where they're trying to explain it to the legislature, who's a member of the Senate Public Safety Committee, Senator John Morlock, they're trying to explain to him exactly how this works. And you can see that even they're not really sure about how this whole thing is going to work.
I just would like to know, or have someone explain, when my commentary says for every new handgun added to the roster, the Department of Justice is required to remove 3 existing handguns, and I'm just curious what that means.
Yes, so currently it will remove the 3 from the list when the new is added on, in order to accommodate the new gun that is being added to the list. It creates an equilibrium, so to speak.
Well, it actually minimizes the list. So one of the arguments that was made was that if you keep adding guns to the roster, you're going to be taking quite a few more off, and you could actually eliminate your competition. And so that's what I didn't understand. Is this a list of guns, handguns that are like in a catalog somewhere, or help out a layman?
Not a catalog. It's a list maintained by the Attorney General.
How long is the list?
I don't know how many guns are on the list.
1,000, 2,000?
I don't know, Senator.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, so as you can see, number one, they don't know how many guns are on the list. Number two, they don't know exactly how they're going to go about determining what firearms are going to be removed. When he was asking about, is there a catalog, he's like, okay, well, so in other words, if I add a Ruger, does that mean that we're going to eliminate 3 Glocks? I mean, how are we going to determine exactly which firearms are going to be removed in these particular cases? Guess what? They don't know. They just absolutely, positively have no idea. But that doesn't stop them from passing legislation in the state of California. I know. It is incredulous. So what you have here is now you have a technology that the bill has been, once again, revamped, or they're trying to rechange the law because they know that the law that's been in place, that they put in place 13 years ago, doesn't work, can't work, and is illegal, or they'll probably wind up losing in court. So now they're going to modify it. They still have technology that we've already determined, one, is ineffective because it's not going to work. It's not going to be effective. But number two, you can get around it incredibly easy. What do you say? 30 seconds with a piece of sandpaper? And now, as a result of that, every firearm that gets added onto the list, you're going to be able to remove 3 firearms from the list, thus taking California's not unsafe handgun roster, or the number of semi-automatic handguns that are available for sale in the state of California, and reducing them even further. Folks, this is nothing more. It's nothing more than a ban on semi-automatic handguns in the state of California. And what they're trying to do now is they're trying to ramp it up and increase it. So how do we turn around? How do we fight this? Well, here's what we need you to do. We need you, this bill right now, it's already passed the Senate committee. It's gotten out of appropriations. It's now headed to the Senate floor. It's on the Senate floor in the state of California. Okay, it's Assembly Bill 2847. Once again, it removes 3 handguns for every one added to the not unsafe handgun roster. It's now on the floor. It's going to be voted on the floor of the state Senate. As of this taping, I have to be honest, I apologize. I did not check to see if it's been amended in the Senate. If it has not, then it will go directly to the governor. If it has been amended in the Senate, then it will go back to the Assembly, and it will be what's called amended, approved with amendments, right? Concurred with amendments. It'll go back on concurrence. Anyway, but we need your help. We need you to go to microstamp-compliant.com. That's microstamp-compliant.com, and we need you to make sure that your voice is heard. Send an email, give them a call, let them know that this is nothing more than an infringement for a technology that is all, hopes and wishes, but we all know is not actually going to do anything to reduce violence in our communities. And that it's really that simple, folks. We need your help. Even if you're not in the state of California, do us a favor. Give them a call, if nothing else, or send them an email. If nothing else, let's clog up their emails. Let's let them know how important this measure is, and let's clog up their phones. Let them know that this is something that's important. See, a lot of time in these situations, when they can't put out phone calls, when they can't make phone calls because their staff is busy on the phone with you, then they start to know that this is an important bill. So let's make sure they know how important this bill is to us. All right, that not infringing on our rights, or infringing on our rights is not something that is okay with us. Let's try it. Let's do that. Anyway, folks, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. That's going to be it for today's Coffee with Craig. We very much appreciate you watching. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program, telling your friends about the Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. Got to use them, or you're going to lose them. You guys take care.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.